Thanks, Kaylee. And right now, we're bringing on our next guest. We have Maggie Dominon over from Metaphor. She is VP of People. Maggie, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
So, Maggie, jumping into it, what does your role kind of entail? Can you give us a little bit of a background of your role over at Metaphora?
Yeah, of course. So I've been at Metaphora for just a little over 3 years now. Essentially, I was hired as kind of the first HR person that the company had ever brought on board. At the time, I think we were 15-ish people in an office in downtown Chicago. So I was brought on to help with kind of everything under the HR umbrella. So over the past 3 years, I've owned recruiting and performance management, benefits, payroll, engagement. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I now have a team working under me, and we are the people team.
Maggie, one of my favorite things about Metaphora is that your CEO, Peter Rentschler, is so incredibly passionate about culture and about taking care of his people. And every time we talk to him, that absolutely comes through. So it's very, of course, telling that he has you as head of VP of People and leading kind of the culture challenge for the Metaphora crew. How do you guys build a really sustainable and really kind of forward-facing culture that's very attractive? Your team is consistently growing. There's a ton of talent entering the Metaphora doors.
Yeah, great question. So I think that the passion that Peter and certainly I have for our culture trickles down to the rest of the organization. I really believe that the rest of the leadership team, even mid-level leaders, even like employees that just joined the company, everyone has this shared passion for the amount that we can accomplish when we are working together, are excited about the work that we do and who we're working for, and who we're working with. And I think that resonates with people even from the interview process, right? People have several conversations with our team during the interview process, and they're like, wow, everyone seems really genuine. Everyone seems like super transparent. Peter talks a lot about how people these days, I think, crave transparency. And that's kind of always been at the heart of how we've built our culture, is a sense of transparency. And I think whether you're brand new or you've been at the company for 4 or 5 years, that really resonates with people.
And Maggie, one of the areas that you said that you really worked on earlier on at Metaphora was with recruiting. And I think that's one of the really underrated roles and positions in a company at sometimes, because you're literally building out the culture. What are going to be some of the things that you're looking for when you're working with your recruiting team on bringing in some of those quality culture people versus maybe someone that's just maybe incredibly qualified, but maybe they won't be the right fit?
Yeah, great question. Recruiting is something that I'm certainly very passionate about, and something that I think at Metaphor we pride ourselves on, because we always want to have access to the best people that we can. And to us, that doesn't mean the person with the shiniest resume or the most credentialing, even the best job fit. It means the best fit for us. And a huge, huge part of that is culture. I talk to people all day for recruiting, and one thing that I ask every single person is, what's important to you in your next role? What are you looking for? What does success look like for you in your next job? And very, very rarely does anyone say anything about the actual work that they're performing. People mention things like culture, feeling supported, working with a team of people that I feel like has my back, feeling like I can show up and be myself at work. And it's just apparent how important that is to everyone at kind of all intersections of their career, that it seemed very obvious for us to prioritize it. And in the recruiting process, that's what we try to give people a genuine glimpse into. Like, what is it like to work here? Of course, what will you be doing in your job? But who are we? What is it like to work with our team, with our customers? How do we communicate? And really focus our interviews on those types of things, so that we get people in the roles that like the kind of work that we do, that like how we work with each other, how we work with our customers.
Thing that I think is very interesting about Metaphora is you guys just well, not very recently anymore, but you guys recently underwent the transition from Carrier Direct into Metaphora. And sometimes those transitions can be kind of sticky and tricky to make sure that the culture comes with you, right? And but at the same time, it can also be a good time to reevaluate the core values of your company and really reground in what makes your company so special, because everybody's expecting a change. So why not come back to why it started in the first place? Do you think that transition from Carrier Direct to Metaphora was a really good regrounding for you guys? And did it change anything about the culture, or was it just kind of the reinforcement of those core values?
Yeah, great question. I would say more so a reinforcement. I don't think we felt a need to completely revolutionize the way that we were doing things, because we had so many foundations and pillars of what we were doing that felt right and felt like they were working. More than anything, I think it was an opportunity for us to celebrate and talk about things that at times like we take for granted because it's just the way that we work. And it feels good to like show up every single day and be happy and like the people that you work with. But day in, day out, it was kind of in January a chance to like reintroduce ourselves and celebrate and be vocal about what already makes us great.
And Maggie, not really so much with Metaphora, but maybe from some um, colleagues that you have in the similar industries, what are some of the examples that you've seen from time to time in different companies where it kind of shows that culture might be a core issue within the company? And what are some of the steps that some people can go about righting that ship?
Yeah, of course. So culture is something that it's hard to define, right? It's for us at Metaphor, it's like who you are right now and who you want to be. I think that shines through in a few areas of when looking at metrics, right? So if you're working at a company and you're like, I think we might have a culture problem, I'm not really sure how to tap into that. Um, Retention is one thing. People continue working somewhere that they are happy. So looking at your retention numbers, if you have a lot of turnover, right? Figuring out why are people leaving the organization. I personally do exit interviews with every single person who leaves, just to kind of tap into, hey, what worked well while you were here? What can we do to continue to make a good experience for the rest of the team? So retention is one. I would say referrals is another, along a very similar vein, right? People refer their friends to work at companies that they like working at. So having a good reputation as somewhere that people like to work. See how many referrals you're getting in, right? Are people referring those that they respect in the industry or in their field to come work for a company that they believe is great? I would say third would be what we call an employee net promoter score, which is basically it's a one question that's how likely are you to refer friends and family to work here? And that's a scaled based response. We measure it twice per year on our employee engagement survey. And I think at the heart of this is just like asking people, right? It's asking your people, keeping lines of communication open about how well you're doing in certain areas and how you can improve in other areas.
Last question for you. One of the pillars of Metaphor is that you guys are so accepting and really encouraging of flexible work and remote work. And you guys have folks that are part of the company that are all across the country, and it's like I said, accepted and encouraged. And right now, as we're heading back into kind of the traditional workforce and we're moving out of the COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of people are kind of reevaluating their work from home strategy or their remote strategy. And that's turning a lot of folks off from coming back into their roles beforehand. Do you think that the culture of remote work and the culture of work flexibility is something that is here to stay? And if so, how do you make sure to translate the culture individually in your company into keeping all of your employees into it, even though they're not physically together?
Yeah, that's a great question. Certainly for us, it was kind of, I think, much like many companies, we just went home one day in March of 2020 and never came back. But throughout that, being the kind of organization that we are able to tap in and ask our employees, like, how are you liking this? How does this feel for you? And I truly believe if our people would have said, hey, I don't like working from home. I want to be back in the office. I'm missing out on productivity or engagement or really anything. I believe that it would have dictated our strategy and we probably wouldn't be fully remote. But our people said, hey, we like this. We like the flexibility of now being, I guess, a global company, right? We're not based in Chicago. I'm in the Indianapolis suburbs. So it's afforded people a lot of opportunity to kind of live their life and work here, which has worked really, really well for us. So it was, again, just talking to people, asking them what works. And we keep the culture maintained in a remote environment through formal and informal channels. Being a Slack centric company, you're kind of always talking to everyone. So you're kind of always plugged in. We operate with stand-up models. So teams or project teams, departments are meeting at the beginning of almost every single day just to kind of touch base. Hey, what's on the agenda? Are you blocked? Do you need help or support on anything? So that you don't feel like you're kind of logging in, working 8 hours, logging out, and you haven't really intersected with anyone. We're huge on video. We try to make it as close to kind of being in person as possible. And then we do have opportunities at least twice a year for like in-person meetups.
Awesome. Well, Maggie, thank you so much for joining us this morning and bringing up a subject I don't think is really talked about enough and really can make a difference in a company. We'll be sure to check in with you a little bit later.
Thanks, you.